Hey, everybody. This is Nevin Gusak, your host of the Populist Patriot. On this live stream, we're going to talk about the role of Western, including American technology, and the role it played in enhancing Putin's war machine of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. And I found a couple of articles here, one from the United Press International, UPI, dated May 5th, 2022. Russian weapons depend on Western components despite arms embargo by Daniel Salisbury of King's College. And ever since the Moscow's partial occupation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014, you had a variety of Western exports of microprocessors, microchips that were used in a variety of Russian armed forces weapons systems, like Russian material captured by Ukrainian forces has revealed a significant dependence on Western-made components. Multiple British manufactured high-frequency transistors were found inside a Russian Borisogledsk 2 mobile jamming system. A Royal United Services Institute, which is British, has suggested in a study that the Russian arms industry uses more Western origin components in its weapon systems than previously thought. The report notes that, quote, Russia's latest weapons are heavily dependent upon critical specialist components manufactured abroad. And the British-made transistors, as we said, are used, for example, in mobile jamming systems. For example, Russia benefited from access to foreign technology without government consent over the past 10 years. It included British exports of sniper rifles, as well as goods for the country's nuclear and missile complex that were sourced from Sweden. Russia's armored vehicle plants at one point were dependent on Western-made components, as well as Russian factories producing radars and surface-to-air missiles were also dependent on components from various Western countries, the United States, Britain, Sweden, etc. New York Times article by Anna Swanson, John Ismay, and Edward Wong, dated June 2nd, 2022, also provides more information on this. It talked about how American companies in the United States and European Union countries exported microchips, circuit boards, engines, antenna, and other equipment for Russian weapons and advanced communication systems that the Russians use for their military forces. According to Damian Spleeters, who is one of the investigators with Conflict Armament Research, he said that Russian companies enjoyed access to a, quote, unabated supply of Western technology for decades. In 2018, Russian sources satisfied only about half of the military-related equipment and services the country needed, such as transportation equipment, computers, optical equipment, machinery, and fabricated metal, according to the data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And the remainder of the equipment and services used by Russia were imported, with about a third of it coming from the United States, Europe, Japan, Taiwan, Australia, and other partner governments in the world. captured Russian-made AZART encrypted radios, which provided secure communications channels for Russian forces. Well, apparently, the microchips used in those systems were imported from a company based in the United States. Three different Russian surveillance drones, two of them called Orlan and Tachyon, and Cartograph. Well, when those drones were opened, they found 6 separate parts from companies with headquarters in the United States, Switzerland, Japan, Communist China, of course, because Communist China is an ally of KGB, Putin, Russia, Germany, the Netherlands, South Korea, our ally, Sweden, and Taiwan, another ally. Maybe Taiwan and South Korea need to get serious and stop the exports to China and Russia, who are the biggest backers of, well, China and North Korea. China and Russia are the biggest backers of North Korea, and Russia is a powerful ally of Communist China. So maybe Taiwan and South Korea should stop these high-tech exports to Beijing and Moscow. So yeah, that's the situation with that. Another article from the Times of India dated May 4th, 2022 by Naomi Canton. It talks about here how a guided 300 millimeter rocket made by the Russians uses a US made fiber optic gyroscope for its navigation. The Russian TOR-M2 air defense system relies on British design oscillator in the computer controlling the platform's radar. Oh, there you go. Israel, according to this article, also along with China, Japan, Netherlands, Germany, Britain, and the United States, Israel supplies the Russians with technology. And the Russians government doesn't like Israel. They're not a reliable friend of Israel. And there are those people that actually, unfortunately, believe that Russia and Israel are natural friends and allies. I'm not so sure about that. Russia is a big backer of some of the most anti-Zionist and, frankly, anti-Jewish Middle Eastern governments in Iran and Syria. Let's take a look at Hamas and Hezbollah and the Palestine Authority. They're backed by Russia as well as their Middle Eastern allies as well as China. Russia is just close with Israel just so they can get Israeli technology and infiltrate more agents in the Russian Jewish emigre community in Israel. Well, as Bastiat said, if goods don't cross borders, armies will. Well, you know what? If goods cross borders, armies will definitely cross borders too. Because it's the high technology goods which fuels the war machines of aggressive totalitarian powers seeking global hegemony. This is what proves why uncontrolled corporate capitalism doesn't work. You can't give corporate America free speech rights and say corporations are people. Mitt Romney and Ted Cruz, you're wrong. This is why we need, again, for the 50 millionth time, a strong state to say, no, you can't export these goods to a hostile totalitarian power like Russia. You cannot do that. And if you do it through third countries, we find out you will get arrested. You will get arrested. You will lose your company because that is treason. Maybe not in a de jure strict legal sense, but this is treason because Russia's planning war against the United States. Russia, not the people, but the government, the intelligence services, and the armed forces, the government, the policymakers, they represent a geopolitical existential threat to the very existence of the United States. That is not hyperbole. So corporations doing business, Western companies, companies in Asia that are doing business with the Russians, they are criminals. They are scoundrels. And a radical civic nationalist government will not tolerate this one iota. We will swiftly deal with these individuals that do business with Russia and China and Iran and Cuba and Venezuela and every other godforsaken anti-American power. I'm not saying go to war with these powers, no way. But there are things we need to do at home. We need to reconfigure and restructure our economic system and our political system so it serves the needs of not only the uplifting of the great masses of people, but also that of enhancing our national security posture. So this is all I have to say about this article. Thank you all for joining me. I appreciate it. And I'll be doing more live streams.